I never thought a corporate retreat would end with me building a shelter from palm fronds while my boss, the woman who'd rejected my expense reports 3 times last quarter, asked me to promise I'd never leave her side. But here's the thing about survival situations. They strip away everything that doesn't matter. And what's left? That's when things get complicated. 29 years old, and I'd finally made junior analyst at Meridian Capital after 3 years of grinding through financial models and pitch decks that no one read. Not impressive by Silicon Valley standards, but for a kid from Cleveland who'd worked his way through state school on a combination of loans, scholarships, and a truly depressing number of barista shifts, it felt like making it. Like I'd finally crossed some invisible threshold into being a real adult with a real career. My boss, Victoria Chen, was the reason I'd gotten promoted. She'd gone to bat for me in front of the directors, argued that I had untapped potential despite my tendency to use too many words in emails and not enough in meetings. She was also the reason I spent most Tuesday afternoons redoing spreadsheets because adequate isn't acceptable, James. Delivered in that crisp voice that made you want to both quit and work harder simultaneously. Victoria was 44, though she had that ageless quality that came from good genes, expensive skincare, and the kind of bone-deep confidence that made you forget to check for gray hair or wrinkles or any of the other markers we use to calculate a woman's worth. Which she did have gray hair. Silver threading through black, worn pulled back in a bun so severe and controlled it looked architectural. Like something Frank Lloyd Wright might have designed if he'd been into hairstyles. She dressed like someone cosplaying a CEO from a prestige drama Armani suits that probably cost what I made in a month, heels that clicked against the office floors like punctuation marks, like periods at the end of sentences that meant the conversation was over. A Patek Philippe watch that I'd once looked up out of curiosity and immediately regretted because it cost more than my car and my student loans combined. Everyone was terrified of her. I was terrified of her. But I also couldn't stop looking at her during meetings. Watching the way she'd lean forward when someone said something particularly stupid, the slight narrowing of her eyes that meant she was about to dismantle your argument with the precision of a surgeon and the mercy of a sledgehammer. The way her mouth would tighten into a line when she was disappointed, which was often because she had standards that most humans couldn't meet even on their best days. Everyone was terrified of her. I was terrified of her. But I also couldn't stop looking at her during meetings, watching the way she'd lean forward when someone said something stupid, the way her mouth would tighten before she dismantled their argument with surgical precision. The company retreat was supposed to be team building, that corporate concept that sounds good in theory and is torture in practice. 40 people from various departments flying to a luxury resort in the Philippines for 3 days of trust falls, rope courses, and the kind of forced fun that makes you question your career choices. I'd tried to get out of it. I had deadlines. I had a cat that needed feeding twice a day and got anxious when I was gone. I had literally anything better to do than spend a long weekend pretending to care about synergy with Karen from accounting. But Victoria had pulled me aside 2 weeks before we were supposed to leave, caught me by the coffee machine, which was the only place in the office where hierarchy briefly dissolved because everyone was equally desperate for caffeine. "You're going, James. You need to learn how to play well with others." She'd said it without looking up from her laptop, like my social deficiencies were just another line item on her to-do list. So I went, packed a bag, left extra food for the cat, and spent 15 hours on planes trying to convince myself that trust falls wouldn't be that bad. The resort was nice, aggressively nice, the kind of place where they fold your towels into swans, and the staff smiles so hard you worry about their jaw muscles. We did icebreakers. We did personality assessments. We did a workshop on authentic leadership that was anything but authentic. And because the universe has a sense of humor, has always had a sense of humor when it comes to my life, the seaplane that was supposed to take a group of us to a nearby island for a leadership experience hit weather on day 2. Bad weather. The kind that came out of nowhere, that turned the sky from blue to black in the time it took to buckle a seatbelt. The kind that made the pilot's face go white under his tan and made Victoria's hand grip the armrest so hard her knuckles went bloodless, bone showing through skin. There were 6 of us in that plane, me, Victoria, 2 guys from marketing whose names I couldn't remember, someone from legal, and the pilot who kept saying, "It's fine, it's just a little turbulence," right up until it very clearly wasn't fine and was way more than a little turbulence. When we went down, and we did go down, There was no gentle emergency landing, no dramatic but ultimately safe crash. I remember the sound metals screaming like something alive and dying, someone else screaming human screams that blended with the mechanical ones. The ocean suddenly too close, visible through the window, green-gray and vast and ready to swallow us. I remember Victoria's perfume, something expensive and clean, maybe Chanel or Dior or one of those brands I couldn't afford even if I saved for a year, cutting through the smell of salt water and the sharp copper scent of fear. I remember thinking, absurdly, that I'd never submitted my Q3 projections, and Victoria was going to be so pissed about that. Then water, cold and violent and everywhere at once, filling my mouth and nose and lungs. Then, nothing. Just black and the sensation of tumbling, of not knowing which way was up, of my body becoming something separate from my consciousness. Then nothing at all. Then water, cold and violent. Then nothing. I woke up with sand in my mouth, gritty and unpleasant, the taste of it mixing with blood and salt water. The sun was trying to burn through my eyelids, hot and insistent, the kind of tropical sun that doesn't care about sunscreen or moderation. Every part of my body hurt, muscles I didn't know I had were screaming. My head felt like someone had taken a hammer to it repeatedly and enthusiastically. My lungs burned from inhaling seawater. The sound of waves was too loud, too insistent, crashing against the shore in a rhythm that felt aggressive. Everything was too much, too bright, too loud, too painful. James. James, can you hear me? Victoria's voice. I forced my eyes open. She was kneeling next to me, hair down for the first time I'd ever seen, wet and tangled. Her white blouse was torn at the shoulder. She had a cut above her eyebrow, blood-dried brown against her skin. She looked nothing like the woman who ran Monday morning meetings with military precision. The others? I managed. Her face did something complicated. I don't know. When we hit the water, everything. I grabbed you because you were closest. We were the only ones who surfaced near this beach. She gestured vaguely behind her. I've been calling for them. Nothing. I sat up too fast and immediately regretted it. The world tilted. Victoria caught my shoulder, steadying me, and the casual touch felt shocking. In 2 years of working for her, we'd never touched beyond the occasional handshake. Easy, she said. You hit your head pretty hard. Probably concussed. Are you okay? She looked at me like the question was unexpected. I'm fine. Bruised, scared, but fine. The beach was small. More of a cove, really. Maybe 50 yards of sand, with jungle pressing in on 3 sides like it was trying to reclaim the space and ocean on the 4th. Endless and indifferent to our situation. No buildings. No people. No boats bobbing in the distance. No sign of the plane or anyone else from our group. Just sand the color of old bones, trees that looked like something from a nature documentary, and the sound of birds that didn't care about our corporate hierarchy, or our survival, or anything except whatever birds care about. Where are we? I asked, and my voice came out rough, damaged from the salt water. I don't know. Somewhere in the archipelago. There are hundreds of islands out here. Victoria stood, brushing sand from her skirt in a gesture that was so normal, so everyday. It felt surreal. The pilot was trying to land when we went down. I don't think we drifted far, but I don't know the currents here. I don't know anything about this place. She looked around, and I could see her trying to apply her usual problem-solving approach to a situation that didn't respond to logic or org charts. I've been trying to find high ground, get a view of where we are, but the jungle is too dense. I made it maybe 20 feet before I couldn't see the beach anymore, and I didn't want to leave you alone, in case you didn't wake up. In case. She didn't finish the sentence. That last part was said quietly, and I caught something underneath it. Fear. Victoria Chen, who'd presented to the board without notes, who'd fired a director without blinking, was scared. I'm awake, I said. So, what's the plan? Plan? She laughed, and it had an edge I'd never heard. The plan is to not die. Beyond that, I'm improvising. We spent the rest of the day salvaging what we could. Most was useless, waterlogged. My phone dead. Victoria's gone. We found emergency supplies. A first aid kit, half a case of water, matches, a flare gun, 3 energy bars. 3 flares, Victoria said. We need to be smart about when we use them. You know about flares? I know about not wasting resources. Vulnerability flickered. I don't know survival. I grew up in Manhattan. Central Park is my wildest nature. I went camping once. High school. Tents and hot dogs. Not exactly Bear Grylls. She smiled. Real smile. Not corporate. Then we're equally useless. Consistent. We built a shelter before dark, more like a lean-to of palm fronds and branches, barely big enough for both of us. We ate energy bars and rationed water. As the sun set fast, the temperature dropped. Tropical paradise became cold, threatening, full of unidentifiable sounds. We should stay close, Victoria said, settling into the shelter. Body heat. I read that somewhere. Okay. We lay down side by side on sand that was still warm from the day. The space was so small our shoulders touched. I could hear Victoria breathing, could smell her perfume still clinging despite the salt water and fear sweat. The jungle around us was full of sounds, insects, birds, things I couldn't identify. James? Yeah? I'm scared. I'd never heard her admit weakness. Ever. Me too. They're looking for us, right? The resort will have noticed we didn't arrive. Yeah, definitely. They'll send search and rescue. How long do you think? I don't know. Few days, maybe? She was quiet for a moment. Then, thank you. For not panicking. For being. I'm panicking internally. I'm just too tired to show it. She laughed, and it was real this time. Warm. Still. Thank you. I fell asleep to the sound of her breathing and woke up at some point in the night to find we'd shifted in our sleep. Her head was on my shoulder, her hand resting on my chest. I should have moved. I didn't. Day 2. We woke to birds and reality. Still here. Still stranded. We arranged rocks spelling SOS. Explored the island maybe 2 miles across. Mostly jungle except our beach and a rocky outcrop. No fresh water, Victoria said, both sweating and scratched. That's a problem. 8 bottles. 2 people. Tropical heat. 4 days. Maybe 5 if we're careful. I'd never seen her like this problem-solving without the performance of it. Just pure pragmatism, tinged with fear. She'd given up on keeping her hair controlled and it fell past her shoulders, wavy from salt water. The severe executive was gone. What remained was just a woman, smart and scared, and trying to keep us alive. We'll figure it out, I said, with more confidence than I felt. Will we? She looked at me. Really looked at me. I've spent 20 years being in control, James. Managing teams, managing outcomes. And now? She gestured at the jungle. None of that matters here. The market doesn't care. Quarterly earnings don't matter. There's no org chart for survival. We're going to be okay. You don't know that? No. But I'm choosing to believe it anyway. Something shifted in her expression. That's very optimistic of you. I'm from the Midwest. We specialize in baseless optimism. She laughed, shaking her head. God, I don't even know basic things about you. Where in the Midwest? Cleveland. Born and raised. You're from New York, right? Queens, originally. Then Manhattan when my parents' restaurant took off. Then Yale. Then 15 years climbing a ladder that suddenly seems very far away. We talked for hours that day, sitting in the shade of our pathetic shelter, rationing sips of water, trying not to think about rescue planes that weren't coming. About our family's mind, working class, loving, loud. Sunday dinners that lasted 4 hours and involved at least 3 types of casserole. Hers ambitious, demanding, successful, the kind of immigrant success story that came with pressure and expectations, and the weight of making their sacrifices mean something. About college, her at Yale, on a full scholarship, pushing herself until she burned out sophomore year and spent 3 months unable to get out of bed. Me, at Ohio State, working 30 hours a week and somehow still finding time to drink too much beer and date the wrong people. About the choices that had led us to that seaplane, to this beach, to each other. Can I tell you something? Victoria asked as the sun started to set, painting the sky in colors that would have been beautiful if we weren't fighting for our lives. We were sitting on the beach, close enough that our arms touched, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off her sunburned skin. I've been lonely for a long time. Successful, but lonely. Work became everything because it was easier than admitting I didn't have anything else. No partner, no close friends, just colleagues and acquaintances, and people who wanted something from me. You have people, friends, family. I have contacts, networking opportunities, people I have drinks with who are really just professional relationships wearing social drag. She drew patterns in the sand with her finger. When was the last time someone saw me? Not Victoria Chen, Senior VP. Just me? I didn't have an answer. Didn't know if I was supposed to. Sorry, she said. That's too heavy for day 2 of being stranded. It's okay. I get it. I've been so focused on proving myself, on making it, that I forgot to actually live. My ex said I was married to my career. She wasn't wrong. Victoria looked at me. Why'd you really come on this retreat? I know you didn't want to. Because you told me to. I tell you to do lots of things. You don't always listen. I smiled. Okay, fine. Because I wanted to impress you. Because maybe if I did the team building thing, you'd see me as more than just the junior analyst who needs 3 tries to get a report right. I see you, James, she said quietly. I've always seen you. Day 4. The routine was becoming familiar in a way that scared me how quickly humans adapt, how fast the abnormal becomes normal. Still, no rescue. We'd moved past the initial shock, past the disbelief that this was really happening, into something like acceptance. Wake at dawn. When the sun made sleep impossible, check the horizon for planes, boats, any sign of civilization. Ration water, we were down to 6 bottles now, and each one that emptied felt like a countdown timer ticking. Try to find food, we'd figured out which fruits were safe by watching birds, reasoning that if they ate it and didn't die, we probably wouldn't either. A scientific approach that felt less sound when you're actually putting strange tropical fruit in your mouth. Keep the signal fire ready. Wood stacked and dry. Matches protected. Talk to keep the fear at bay. Because silence let the panic creep in. The water ran out on day 5. I woke up to Victoria counting the bottles, her face doing that thing it did when the numbers didn't work out, when the quarterly projections came up short. We need to find fresh water, Victoria said. And she was trying to sound calm, but I could hear the panic underneath. Or figure out how to purify salt water. Or, hey, I caught her hand. We'll figure it out. Will we? James, we're going to die out here. We're going to die and no one's coming and her voice cracked. I don't want to die. I'm not ready. There's so much I haven't done, haven't said. She was crying. Victoria Chen, who I'd never seen show weakness in 2 years of working together, who'd presented to hostile clients without breaking a sweat, who'd fired a director without blinking, was crying real tears. Messy and uncontrolled, her whole body shaking with the force of it. I pulled her into a hug without thinking, without considering whether it was appropriate or professional, or any of the things that would have mattered 3 days ago. She collapsed against me, and I held her while she fell apart, felt her tears soaking through my shirt, felt her hands gripping my shoulders like I was the only solid thing in a world that had come unmoored. We're not going to die, I said into her hair. I won't let that happen. You can't promise that. I just did. She pulled back enough to look at me, and her eyes were red, pupils blown wide, makeup long gone. She'd stopped bothering with it. After day 2 looking more real, more human, more present than I'd ever seen her in the fluorescent lights of the office. Her hair was wild, sun-bleached at the ends, full of salt and sand. Her skin was burned and peeling. She looked nothing like the woman who terrified analysts and made grown men stutter in meetings. She looked like someone I'd risk everything for. Because you made me better. Because you saw potential in me when I was ready to settle for good enough. Because underneath the scary boss exterior, you're brilliant and funny and so fucking lonely it breaks my heart. The air between us changed. Charged. Dangerous. James, she said, and it wasn't a warning or a question. Just my name, said like she was trying it out in a new context. I should have pulled away. Professional boundaries, power dynamics, the fact that we might die here and shouldn't complicate things further, all the reasons this was a terrible idea. I kissed her anyway. She made a small sound of surprise, then kissed me back. Her hands came up to my face, my neck, tangling in my hair. She tasted like salt and fear, and something sweet I couldn't name. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, she rested her forehead against mine. That was inappropriate, she said. Yeah, we should probably talk about power dynamics and… Do you want to? No, she laughed, shaky. I want to kiss you again and pretend nothing else matters. Then do that. This time, when we kissed, it was slower. Less desperate. More deliberate. Her fingers traced my jaw, my neck, learning the shape of me. I kissed the cut above her eyebrow, the bridge of her nose, the corner of her mouth. We ended up lying in the sand, tangled together, and for a while the island and the danger and the fear all fell away. If no one comes, Victoria whispered against my shoulder. If we're stuck here forever, would you stay with me? Even though I'm difficult and demanding and older than you and probably not who you imagined ending up with? Because of those things. Not despite them. I kissed her temple. You're extraordinary, Victoria. You always have been. It just took being stranded on an island for me to be brave enough to say it. She looked up at me, eyes bright. When we get rescued, and we will get rescued, what happens then? I don't know, but I want to find out. Me too. They found us on day 7, a Coast Guard helicopter, responding to the search and rescue operation that had been ongoing since the plane went down. The other 4 passengers had been found 2 days earlier, rescued from a different island 15 miles away. We were dehydrated, sunburned, half-starved, and deliriously happy to see other humans. The medics checked us over, gave us water, wrapped us in thermal blankets that felt absurd in the tropical heat. You're lucky, one of them said. Another few days, and it would have been a lot worse. Victoria caught my eye across the helicopter. Lucky. Yeah, that was one word for it. At the hospital in Manila, they separated us. Different rooms, different doctors. I gave my statement to the authorities, answered questions about the crash, tried to explain how we'd survived. No one asked about what happened between me and my boss. I didn't volunteer. I saw Victoria once, in passing, being escorted by someone from the company. She looked like herself again. Clean, composed, hair controlled. She caught my eye, smiled slightly, then was gone. 3 weeks later, I was back in New York. Back at work, my apartment, my cat, the routine that felt foreign. The island felt like a dream, except it wasn't. I had scars, sunburn, marks still peeling, a gash on my arm that had needed antibiotics, memories that woke me up at night. Victoria was in the office, but we hadn't spoken beyond professional minimums. A nod in the elevator. A brief project email. Nothing personal. Nothing that acknowledged what had happened. I told myself it was for the best. Survival, not real life. She'd moved on. I should too. But I couldn't stop thinking about her. About her crying in my arms. About her question. If no one comes, will you stay? My answer. Yes. Then, 3 weeks and 2 days after rescue, I was counting she appeared at my desk after hours. She looked exhausted, uncertain. Can we talk? She asked, and her voice was quiet, stripped of its usual authority. Yeah, of course. We went to her office. She closed the door, locked it, and leaned against it. She wore her severe suit, architectural bun, but I could see past it now. The woman who'd broken down when the water ran out. I've been avoiding you, she said finally. I noticed. Not because I wanted to. God, not because I wanted to. She closed her eyes. Because I've been meeting with HR, with legal, with my boss, trying to figure out how to make this possible. Us. If there even is an us. My heart started beating faster. And? And it's complicated. She opened her eyes, bright with tears. I had a meeting with compliance this morning. Someone saw us at the hospital in Manila, how we looked at each other, made a complaint. In a company like this, appearance matters as much as reality. What did they say? Victoria laughed without humor. They gave me a choice. I've been offered partner 15 years of work, corner office, equity, my name on the letterhead. Everything I've sacrificed for. She paused. Or I can be with you, but not both. The morality clause in the partnership agreement, they were very clear. The room seemed to tilt. They're making you choose between your career and you. Yes. She walked to her desk, restless. I could fight it. Get a lawyer, argue extraordinary circumstances, discrimination, but that would take years. And in the meantime, every client meeting people would be wondering, talking, judging. What do you want to do? I asked. Though I wasn't sure I wanted to hear the answer. She looked at me the way she had on the beach. I want you. I want you in a way that terrifies me. But sitting in that meeting, listening to them talk about partnership and equity, all I could think about was you. How you held me when I was falling apart. How you promised we wouldn't die and made me believe it. So what are you saying? I told them to keep their partnership. Her voice cracked. I quit. 20 years. Gone. Because the alternative is pretending the island didn't happen. Pretending I don't love you, and I can't do that. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't process what she was saying. You quit? For me? For us? And for me? Honestly. Because the woman who would have chosen differently died on that island. The one who came back wants something more than a corner office, and her name on the door. Victoria, I can't let you do that. Your career is just a career. She took my hands. You know what I learned on that island? Success doesn't keep you warm at night. Quarterly earnings don't matter when you're staring at your last bottle of water. The only thing that matters is who you want beside you when everything falls away. She squeezed my hands. I want you beside me. Not as my employee, as my partner. Of course I want that. But your career, I'm choosing. For the first time, I'm choosing what I want instead of what looks good on paper. She smiled, sad but certain. I have savings. Contacts. Recruiters have already called. I'll land on my feet. The question is whether you want to be there when I do. I pulled her into a kiss, answering without words. She made that small sound I remembered from the island, her hands coming up to my face, my neck, holding on like I might disappear. When we finally broke apart, I said, I love you. I should have said it on the island. I'm saying it now. I love you too. She rested her forehead against mine. And I'm scared. I've never done this before, chosen someone over ambition. What if I resent you later? What if it doesn't work and I gave up everything for nothing? Then we'll deal with it. Together. Like we dealt with being stranded on an island with no water and 3 energy bars. She laughed, and it was real this time. That's actually a pretty good argument. I have my moments. 8 months later, we're living together in a new apartment. Victoria took a position at a smaller firm, less prestigious, but more flexible. She makes less money, but comes home at reasonable hours. Smiles more. I'm still at Meridian, different department. There are rumors, there will always be rumors about the Ice Queen who quit for her young analyst. Some think it's romantic. Some scandalous. We've stopped caring. We don't talk about the island much. It's there, in how we check in, how she reaches for my hand during turbulence, how I keep extra water bottles, how we kiss goodbye every morning like we might not see each other again. But sometimes, late at night, she'll ask, do you regret it? That I gave up partner? And I tell her, you didn't give up anything. You chose something better. She smiles. Best decision I ever made. Then, if we'd never been rescued, would you still have stayed? I pull her closer. Yes. Then. Now. Always. You're not someone I'd want to survive without. The island taught us survival isn't about resources. It's about having the right person beside you, about risking everything for something real, choosing love over safety, connection over success. We survived that island, but we also survived coming back choosing each other when the world offered 1,000 reasons not to, when there were consequences and costs, but we pay them together, and that makes all the difference. The end.